What is up, guys? Welcome to part 2 of my championship predictions video. In the last episode, I went through 24th all the way up to 13th, and today we're going to be, of course, looking up from 12th all the way up to the very top. So who do I think is going to narrowly miss out on the playoffs? Who are the lucky four who get in there? Who goes up automatic? And who are my champions? Let's get into it.
The Uruguayan curls one in. Oh, Middlesbrough take the lead!
In 12th, right in the middle of the table, I've got Birmingham City. Now, Birmingham's recruitment has been nothing short of unbelievable this summer. I think they've probably had the best transfer window of the lot so far, and given the off-field issues and what's happened in recent memory with the ownership and everything, Birmingham's recruitment have been ridiculous this summer. Some of the players they've brought in are absolute gems, and they're really putting together a young side who I think have got so much potential, and if they click, it could be a dark horse, Birmingham. I really do think that. I feel like they've been sort of, they've been hanging in the doldrums, lingering around 17th, 18th for seasons now, but I honestly feel like there is reason to be optimistic for Birmingham. Dion Sanderson, Ethan Laird, Tyler Roberts, Keshi Anderson, Christian Bielik coming in as a permanent transfer, I think, this season, and Srika Dembele, who I really rated at Peterborough before he went to Bournemouth, are some fantastic signings who I think have come into a club where they can really make a difference, and I think are at that level where their potential could prove really, really exceptional for Birmingham City. So for me, yes, they've lost Tai Chong, they've lost another couple of players who they had on loan last season. They've certainly lost quality, but I think some of the players they've brought in are young, very, very exciting. So for me, I can only see Birmingham going up. I think they've done exceptionally well with their recruitment, and I think it would be great to see them maybe push even higher, but I think mid-table for them, given the recent memory that they've had, recent seasons and where they've finished, I think would be an amazing result for them. In 11th, I've got Hull City. Now, Hull are a funny one because I'm not super sold by the recruitment so far, and yes, there are still question marks over Rossini. I think he was under a little bit of pressure at the back end of last season, but he has, I think, showed nothing but progress with Hull City. I think defensively he's done an unbelievable job with them, and if he can sort of make things click at the other end of the pitch, then there's a lot of potential in this Hull City side. But I think this is going to be another season of progress for them. I don't think Rossini is going to, drag them into anything too special. I don't think they'll be competing for the playoffs, but I think they're going to be safely away from anything too dangerous in the bottom, and they might have a flirt with the playoffs at times if they can put a good run together. But for me, I think Rossini is a really, really good coach, a really clever football man, and I think he's only going to take Hull City one way, and I hope he does well for them. So yeah, for me, an improvement for Hull, nothing too special, but I think they'll be safely in mid-table, in and around 11th. In 10th, I've got Watford. Now, Watford are probably the hardest to predict because we're used to Watford being a side who you just automatically assume compete for promotion and playoffs, and that's obviously going to be the expectation. But I don't know how it'll go with Valérien Ismaël. I really don't. I feel like it's going to be either a appointment that just fits and works, because we've seen what he can do at Barnsley with the right players in the right places, how effective his style of play can be. But if it goes wrong, we know how quickly things can spiral out of control at Watford, and suddenly they're going through 2 or 3 coaches, the fans are disgruntled, the players don't know what style of football they're playing, and you're in exactly the same position as they were last season. So it could go one of 2 ways for Watford. It could either click with Ismaël and they have a really good season, and they literally could be in the playoffs. Nothing wrong with that. Or it could go terribly wrong. They run through managers like there's no tomorrow, and they finish mid-table, maybe even in the bottom half. So, you know what, with Watford, all you can do when predicting where they're going to finish is stick them in and around 10th and just see what the hell happens, because predicting what happens at Watford is impossible. In 9th, I've got Coventry City. Now, I still really rate Coventry, and I think they've shown a track record, of course, of continually improving season on season on season. And this might all hang on whether Gus Hamer stays or not. I don't know if there's been many links with him, but if they can keep hold of him, that could be key. But obviously, elephant in the room, they've lost Victor Gyökeres. And I don't think whoever they brought in, they could have replaced what he could bring to the team, because he doesn't just bring goals, he brings assists, he brings hold-up play, he's a menace up front. We saw that in the playoffs. So I think trying to replace Gyökeres was near enough at this level with the budget they had, an impossible task. So that's going to be a hole they're inevitably just going to have to try and fill, and a hole they're going to have to just try and manage. And they've done that by bringing in Ellis Sims for $8 million. Now, I'm not 100% sold on that signing. There was definitely a sign that he has potential when he was at Sunderland, but whether he can lead the line as the leading man who bags 20 plus goals and tries to carry the side like Victor Gyökeres did, I'm not sure he can do that. I feel like he could do maybe 75% of the job Gyökeres did, but I just can't see a world where Coventry replicate or improve on what they did last season without him. And that's with Gus Hamer. If they lose him as well, then I have absolutely no idea where they're going to end up. Now, they've still made some other good signings. Jada Silva's come in. Latibodia, I think it is, from Swansea's come in. So there's some decent signings in there. I think they've, gotten rid of some good players and replaced them well. But Gyökeres is the standout one for me. And I think it all hinges on what happens with Hamer. But I still think Robins is good enough and is one of the best coaches in the league. And I think he'll still take this Coventry side in a fight for the playoffs. I think they'll still be up there, they'll still be competing, they'll still be in the fight. They're not going to drop into mid-table mediocrity, but I think the quality of teams above them, the improvements they will have made, they won't have just maintained their squads, they will have improved them. I can't say the same for Coventry at this moment in time, so that's why I think they're going to just drop in a little bit from where they were last season, and that's why I've got them in and around 9th. In 8th, I've got Millwall. Again, another sort of safe pick for Millwall. It's been a quiet summer for them so far. Not too many incomings, not too many outgoings, but I think Gary Rowett is a safe pair of hands. Whether he can take them to that next step, a bit like what I was saying with Nigel Pearson, I don't know if Rowett can take them to the next level. I don't know whether they've got the budget or the funds or the recruitment to just take them into that next level. And like I said, it's going to be even harder next season, I think, getting into the top 6 with the teams coming down especially. So I think Millwall will struggle, like Coventry, to improve on last season. And I think there were signs at the end of last season that maybe the lack of experience in terms of getting into the playoffs in the Championship in that squad sort of told towards the end of the season. They really, really buckled and missed an open goal last season when it comes to making the playoffs, Millwall. But I don't think they'll drop off massively. I still think they'll be a solid side, still be very good at home, still be a nightmare to play against, and I think Rowett will still do a solid job, but I think breaking into the playoffs will be a little bit of a step too far for them, so that's why I've got them in and around the same position in 8th. In 7th, I've got Swansea City. Now, I don't know what it is about Swansea, but I feel like with Michael Duff, the players in the squad, the formation he wants to play, and the players he's brought in, it could work. And I've just got a good feeling about Swansea. I feel like there was certainly signs at the end of last season that when they get it right, they can be a really, really good side. And obviously the trouble they had was that they gave themselves too much to do earlier in the season. And Russell Martin, for as good as he's praised for his possession-based football, defensively there was still a lot left to be desired for Swansea. So I have a good feeling that they'll actually still give it a pretty good go this season, but I don't think they'll quite make it. I think they'll improve, but they'll still just fall short. They have lost Morgan Whittaker, they have lost Ryan Manning, who is a huge loss for them, who of course has gone to Southampton, but they've brought in Jerry Yates, who I think is an underrated signing to bring in. I think he'll really fit Michael Duff's system with what he wants from a striker, and I think he's certainly capable of bagging double digits or double figures in the Championship, but I still think it will be a step too far for Swansea to get into the playoffs, but they'll still maintain their progress, and I think they'll fall just short. In 6th, squeezing in the playoffs, and I think will be the team that make that late run and sneaking at the end with the momentum, is Ipswich Town. Now, I think I speak for a lot of people in the Championship who are fans of, just general Championship football, or fans of a specific club like me. I am ridiculously excited for Ipswich Town this season. Kieran McKenna is such an exciting coach. He, of course, comes from a sort of similar background as Michael Carrick did from Manchester United. And I just looked at Ipswich last season and what they did in the Championship. And yeah, they didn't win the league. Plymouth deserve a lot of respect for that. But the run they went on towards the end of League One was scary. It's like they dropped a solid mid-table Championship side in League One, because at times some of the results they were getting, I mean, the aggregate score I think they had over a long period of matches was stupid. So I think the football that McKenna's got his team playing, as well as the strength of the squad currently, and the budget that they have available to bring players in, I think makes Ipswich a really dangerous side this season. And I'm reminded as what Sunderland did last season. I feel like they've got the squad, they've got the manager to really step up and play some fantastic football. I don't think they'll be afraid of the teams in the Championship. I think, of course, going to Portman Road is going to be a nightmare as well. I think it's going to be a tough place for teams to go. I honestly have a really good feeling about Ipswich. Whether they get promoted, I don't know who's going to win the playoffs. I've predicted the 4 sides, but I think it will be a step too far for them to go up again, but they'll certainly make their presence known, and I think they might sneak a playoff spot. I'm very excited for Ipswich Town and Kieran McKenna, and to see how they play in the Championship. But I've got a sneaky feeling about them, and that's why I think they'll sneak in there and finish 6th. In 5th, I've got Southampton. Now, I'm struggling with Southampton because I feel like their squad could either fit perfectly for the Championship or it could be a disaster, because I feel like their recruitment over the last few seasons, they've brought in players who probably weren't good enough for the Premier League. A lot of young players who maybe just didn't quite have enough time to step up and get a grip on the Premier League, and they've come down. But that could be a blessing in disguise for Southampton, because without knowing, they might have probably been recruiting quite well for the Championship without even realising. So I think the players that they still have in the squad could really do a job in the Championship. Now, of course, they've had to lose players because they've come down, but I think signing the likes of Ryan Manning is a fantastic signing for them. We've not seen them stretch their financial muscle too much yet, considering they've just come down, but I just feel like their squad is already good enough to compete in the top 6, as you'd expect with any side coming down, of course, because the gap's that big. But I think that, along with Russell Martin, I think if he's given the budget to buy the players that fit his style of play, like with him bringing Ryan Manning in, I feel like if he can really mould a squad around his style of play, it could be very, very effective. I think, of course, there's still question marks over how he sets his teams up defensively, which could be what prevents Southampton from challenging for the top 2, but I still think the combination of Martin coming in, having better quality players at his disposal, and a little bit of budget will enable Southampton to easily be in the top 6, and I think their squad could already be fit for the Championship quality-wise. That is obviously something that we're going to just have to wait and see what happens and how they adapt, but I think they certainly should be in the top 6, and I think that's where they'll finish, and I've got them in 5th. In 4th, I've got Leeds United. Now, I think, again, it's very naive to not put a relegated side in the playoffs. I think you've just got to take into consideration the players that they've got at their disposal, the financial, the money they've got to spend, etc. But I'm not as convinced by Leeds as I maybe would have been. I think maybe putting them above Southampton is probably a bold prediction. In fact, I might swap them and put Southampton 4th and Leeds 5th, because I feel like they're a little bit behind Leeds than what the other two are. So I'm gonna switch that on the fly. I'm gonna put Southampton in 4th, Leeds in 5th. They brought in their manager a little bit later than Southampton and Leicester. They're probably not as well prepared. Of course, there's been lots going on with the ownership, and they're having to let a hell of a lot of players go for a huge loss. They've lost the likes of Rodrigo, they've lost Robin Koch, they've lost Tyler Roberts, they've lost Christensen, Aronson, McKennie, some really, really huge players. And there's still some good players in there. Jack Harrison, Patrick Bamford could still more than do a job for Leeds. But I still don't think we've seen, what they can do with the money they may or may not have. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty around Leeds. I think the one thing, or the one guarantee that I think we have got with them now, is that their manager knows how to get the job done. I think Daniel Farke is a very good appointment. Whether he replicates what he did at Norwich, who knows? I think, just because he's got promotions on his CV, I think gives him enough credibility to think, well, given Leeds and their resources and everything, I think he should be able to play a good style of football there and get them results, to at least get them in the top 6. But I still feel like there is a lot of question marks over Leeds. And there maybe is a chance they don't make the playoffs this season if things go drastically wrong and they don't start well. But I just think they just will find their feet. And Farke will get enough out of the squad, I think, to get them in the playoffs. But I don't think it will be a bustling return to the Premier League. I don't think they're going to railroad teams. I don't think they're going to be top 2 or anything like that. I think there's still lots of question marks over Leeds. New ownership, huge turnover of players, question marks on the players who are coming down and whether they can do a job in the Championship. And can Farke replicate what he did before at Norwich? Who knows? But I still think they should make the playoffs. But I am going to put them in 5th. And I'm going to bump Southampton up to 4th. In 3rd, I've got Sunderland. Now, I honestly feel like Sunderland are a bit of a scary prospect this season, and it's not good for me saying that as a Boro fan, but I obviously adore Tony Mowbray. He's an absolute legend, and despite it being Sunderland, I like seeing Mogger do well. And it is a little bit scary what Sunderland were able to do last season, given the fact they were absolutely riddled with injuries. They didn't have some of their best defenders. I think Dan Ballard might have been injured for them. They of course didn't have Ross Stewart for a prolonged period of time. And I feel like if Sunderland somehow come out of the transfer window still with Stewart in the squad, with a fully fit squad, if Jack Clark can stay as well, of course there is, at the time of recording, huge interest from Burnley with Jack Clark. I think Southampton are looking at Stewart. If they lose both of them, then maybe it will be a struggle for them to get into the playoffs and replicate what they did last season. But I still think there's enough quality in that squad, enough youth in that squad to develop even further. And Mogger he's really good at developing young players. I think it's a really good squad for him to really, sprinkle his magic on. And I think if they can keep hold of the players like Stewart and Clark, undoubtedly they'll improve in a playoff spot this season. But I do think they might lose 1 or 2 of them, which might, especially if they lose Stewart, I think top end of the pitch, that lack of a striker, as much as Clark and Roberts did a great job, Diallo, of course, a huge player who's going to be missing this season, I believe, there will be a lack of goal scorers at the top end of the pitch. So for me, it's crucial they keep Stewart. I think that could be the difference between them, maybe fighting for the top 2, but certainly the playoffs. If not, they might drop off. But as it stands with the squad they've got, inevitably Sunderland are only going to get better, and it's quite a scary prospect what them young players could be like this season. So that's why I've got them comfortably in the playoffs in 3rd. In 2nd then, the first team to go automatically promoted. It's the hope that kills you. I've got Boro. Now, why I do this to myself every season, I honestly do not know. But I feel like there is only going to be improvement when it comes to Boro with a full season with Michael Carrick at the helm. I feel like there's still lots of work for us to do in the transfer window. That's my only slight hesitation or trepidation with Boro at the minute. I think undoubtedly the players we've brought in so far are really exciting young prospects who I think will develop as time goes on into ridiculous players. I mean, this squad of players could be outstanding, when given time to flourish. Alex Gilbert's a fantastic signing. Rav van den Berg, we beat some European, giants to get him, and he looks like honestly a gem for the future. Sammy Silvera, I think, is a gem that we found from Australia. Morgan Rogers has looked really good since he's come in, and I think Senny Dieng's going to do a good job for us as well. And other than that, we've pretty much maintained the squad that we had before. I don't think we'll lose Akpom. There's just not enough interest in him, I don't think, and he has got a knee injury at the moment, which I think might keep teams away. But I think all Boro need to do is strengthen in the loan market, which will only happen at the end of the window, as we well know, because you're waiting on the dominoes to fall from above with the Premier League teams. So I think all Boro are waiting on is the loan market to really kick in, and that's when we'll make our moves. Of course, there's Aaron Ramsey, there's Cameron Archer, there are some still huge players that we had on loan last season who need replacing, but I think looking across the squad, plenty of players can step up. I think midfield we're absolutely sorted. Hackney and Barlas, Housen still can do a great job. I think in defence we've got Dale Fry, we've got Lenahan, Vandenberg as well. it's just, I think full-back is an area we need to improve. I think not signing Ryan Giles is going to be a huge blow for us. I think we're really going to have to try and, manage that creative outlet this season and try and find the creativity from elsewhere. And we are struggling at right back as well with injuries to Tommy Smith and Dijksteel and a bit of depth there. But the big one for me is the number 9 in front of Chuba Akpom. We of course had Cameron Archer there last season, and to have a striker almost as prolific as Akpom up front made us deadly up top. And whether we're going to get Archer again, I don't think we will, but if we can find a player who's even 75 to 80% as good as Archer, he'll score a bucket load of goals in this Boro side. I think we're looking already really sharp, really exciting in pre-season, playing some really good stuff. The one thing missing is the finisher to actually finish off the chances. So if we get a forward in, a couple of more experienced loans, no reason why Boro can't kick on and be a really scary prospect this season. I honestly feel like of the teams who stayed down from the playoffs, Boro are the one who could kick on and really do something special this season under Carrick. And if we can take advantage of a couple of the relegated sides maybe struggling with a few things, like I mentioned, I think that second position is open. And I think if one team can take it, I think it's Boro. Finally, at number 1, I don't think there's any surprise that this team should probably not only get automatically promoted, but they should absolutely walk the league. It's Leicester City. Now, there's no surprise, Leicester, what a team to be in the Championship. The size of the club, the quality of the squad, even losing Tielemans, Maddison, Barnes, Soyuncu, you name it, the quality of squad is still absolutely ridiculous. And I think the signings of Harry Winks, especially, even Conor Corey, I think it's a decent signing for the Championship, but Harry Winks is a ridiculous player to sign for the Championship. And I think you've got the likes of Dewsbury Hall who are still in there. I think Patson Daka's still there. I think obviously Jamie Vardy. He's obviously, he's slowly sort of, his quality is dissipating as time goes on. But honestly, I think can still get double figures and cause problems for many defences at the Championship. I think Leicester are certainly not a side to underestimate, and if all things click, they could do a Burnley this season. I just can't see how many clubs could challenge them unless they had an absolute disaster. I think the one question mark you could say is over Enzo Maresca, and that it's his first full-time job in the Championship. It's going to be tough. It might take him a while to adapt. Hey, Leicester might not get off to the perfect start, but I think once they get a handle on the Championship and once the players get a handle on it and their squad settles down, good grief, it could be a scary prospect. And I think, you look at Maresca, you don't become an assistant for Pep Guardiola if you're a bad coach. And I think if he really gets a handle on his squad, and like I say, they click into gear, I think there's only one way that this league's going to go, and that's that Leicester win it and walk it probably. So yeah, I don't think there's much else to say. A huge club with lots of money and already a ridiculous squad who really shouldn't be relegated in this league, but they are, and that is my champions, Leicester City. So guys, there is the end of part 2 here and my Championship predictions from 12th to 1st. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, who you think might make the playoffs, your dark horse, who you think will go up automatics, and who you think will win the league. And what do you think Boro will end up with, of course, you are a Boro fan. But of course, other than that, do like the video. If you've enjoyed it, it really does support the channel and the video out, and I really appreciate it. As well as subscribe for much more football related content to come, of course. Hit the bell so you never miss an episode as well in a video here on the channel. But until next time, guys, a big thank you for watching both of my Championship prediction videos, part 1 and part 2. And until next time, take care. See you all next time.